Hey, Bright Lights, welcome back to the Space Doctor series on the Architecting channel. This is your place to go if you want to demystify the science behind the design for well-being. Maybe you're an architect, maybe you're an interior designer, maybe you're just somebody who wants their home to be a more peaceful, restorative place, or a teacher who's trying to create a better environment for learning, or someone who just wants to be an advocate in the community. Whoever you are, you have come to the right place, which is why you should like and subscribe to this channel ASAP if you are not already subscribed. My name is Angela. I am an architect and a feng shui practitioner who has spent my entire career studying, researching the science of design for well-being, something otherwise known as salutogenesis, or health generating environments. And I wanted to make this simple to understand, easy to use, break down a lot of complex research so that everyone can learn, understand, and most of all, apply in your own life this very, very real strategies that do make a difference. Trust me on that. So we're going to use my salutogenesis deck. It has two parts. The first part are foundational concepts around well-being, and the second part are 5 theories that my research has shown form the core aspects of a salutogenesis. I've also attached each of these to a feng shui element, and we will talk a little bit more around the feng shui of design, because a lot of that was a precursor to research that we're doing today. Feng shui is correct. These observations are now being borne out through research in psychology and neurology. So I think it's really fascinating to blend the two. Today, the card that I drew from the foundational aspects part of the deck is resources to cope. And what you can see here is what looks like the remnants of a house of cards, but because cards stacked up against one another don't have a lot of structural resources, it is being blown away and scattered into space. And that is exactly what will happen to you in your life if you don't have resources. This is a very, very core part of the salutogenesis theory. The man who coined the term salutogenesis, Aaron Antonovsky, first began his research studying resources to cope. And essentially, you have more resources, and resources are not just money. Resources can be your level of education, the strength of your social network, the quality of your environment, whether it's toxic and taking a toll on your health or not. How reliable is your transportation? So many ways we can have resources. If we do not, however, have resources, when we encounter a difficulty, we will have a much more difficult time overcoming that difficulty than somebody who has resources. So it's a really important thing to think about. And resources can certainly occur within the spaces that we're in, right? If you are in an environment that is too hot or too cold, that's depleting resources. If you're in a loud, noisy environment, but you're trying to do quiet, focused work, that environment is depleting your resources. So it really does make a big difference to think about putting the right resources into a space for the kind of activity that you need to be doing. Even something like the chair that I'm sitting on can give me the resource of support and comfort if it is ergonomically correct, or if it's not, can be a source of backaches. Now we're going to pair this up with a card from the aspects part of the deck, and the card that I drew for this reading is from the self-efficacy part of the deck. Self-efficacy is a theory that Bandura developed that is about believing that you can. When we think we can do something, the likelihood that we're going to do it much higher than if we have doubts about our ability. Why is that? Because if we believe we can do something, we don't take setbacks as a sign that we can't do it or we should give up. We just take setbacks for what they are, a setback, and we look for a way around it. And there's many ways that self-efficacy can show up. It is associated with the fire element, and fire is about determination, courage, the willpower, the spirit in feng shui. So you can see how the two things are very connected. And the way we're going to talk about with the card that I drew this time is wayfinding. So you can see on the card that we have a maze. A maze is different from a labyrinth. Mazes represent the journey of life with its twists and turns. They're a puzzle. So they can represent the potential for confusion or enlightenment, either way, and a path towards a goal. And the word maze is believed to come from the Scandinavian word for a state of bewilderness or confusion. So when we think about wayfinding, we want to avoid that, right? We want to make it very, very easy for people to figure out how to get around. Because clearly, if I am in a state of bewilderment and confusion, I don't feel like I can, right? My self efficacy is pretty low. Wayfinding, very simply, is just all the ways that people orient themselves in a physical space and how they navigate from place to place. So the easier it is to orient yourself and to see your destination, the better the wayfinding is. The harder it is, the more people are going to feel lost, confused, frustrated, especially if you have an appointment to get to and you're running late. Now we've just fueled someone's stress response, especially if you need to feel confident, but now you've just had an experience that undermined your confidence. That's not very good. Now, what's important to understand about wayfinding is most people think about the obvious kind of applied wayfinding, like here's a sign that says this is the way to go, or an arrow pointing the direction, or an information kiosk with a map. Maybe there's an app that you're using that's kind of telling you where to go, like your GPS tools do. It could even be signage that is good for somebody who has vision impairment, like auditory cues or tactile cues. But we also can think about intuitive wayfinding. And this is where it gets really fun because it means that we're not relying on a sign to tell us where to go. The building itself is telling us how to get where we need to go. So, some strategies for that are having simplified circulation. Is the back of the house stuff what maybe the staff is doing or that's around the building operations happening separately from the public circulation so that there's less circulation and it's a more direct route for somebody visiting the building to get from the point where they enter to their final destination? Could we have things like, say, an atrium space so that I can see multiple destinations from where I am and I can figure out where I need to go without needing to look at a map because I can see it? You'll see this in a lot of malls, they do this, but a lot of public buildings, including healthcare, are starting to adopt this strategy. Wayfinding's also about being able to see outside so I can understand based on where I came into the building where I am now. That helps me to find my way back. It could be things like pieces of art or colors or patterns or plant schemes or water features, things that are memorable landmarks. And then I can do something called cognitive chunking. So I don't have to think that I need to walk to here and turn left and turn right. That quickly gets forgotten as information, or look for signs. Instead, I can say, oh, I see that fountain up ahead. I'm going to walk up to the fountain and then I'm going to turn right. And then I'm going to see a red wall. And that red wall is the office I'm supposed to go to. And we can layer wayfinding as well. So you can have a color scheme, a plant scheme, a art scheme, and directional signage like the room number. And people remember and learn and navigate a lot of different ways. So by having all of that layered in, gets a lot easier to find your way, to remember, so you can find your way the next time. So let's talk about what these two cards can mean together. Wayfinding becomes a resource when we have more intuitive wayfinding, when our wayfinding is multisensory, when we have thought about people with disabilities and the kind of tools they might need to navigate. So all of these things, all of these design decisions that we are making are resources. And these resources are sprinkled throughout a building, and people can come across them very easily. The resource helps them without their even being consciously aware of it. They don't have to know that it's there to be benefiting from it. However, every single good wayfinding tool that you design into your space is just one more resource. And the more you layer them, the more resources you are providing for somebody to find their way through a space that they're not familiar with, or a space that is very complex. Because if it is a very large environment, maybe a whole campus or a very large building, even if they've been there before, it still is very hard to figure out where to go. It's easy to make a wrong turn and get lost. So let's think about how we can do this, how we can help put those resources in and really give people a lot more confidence, self assurance, and a lot less stress in finding their way to where they are going. Sound good to you? If it does, make sure that you like, subscribe, and tell a friend. It is a way you can help have good information, just like what you heard now, reach more people, be used by more people, be talked about by more people, and we can work together to create a better built world. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate your participation in this movement, and I look forward to seeing you next time.